late at night here on the East Coast, but we've got another great episode coming at you right now for the Airgun Hunting Legion videocast. I'm Jason Reed. I'm here with Kip Perow from Airguns of Arizona, one of the most accomplished airgun hunters I've heard of so far. Got some great trophies behind you. Kip, thanks for joining late. I know you had a busy day. You guys have been really cranking down there, it sounds like, at the shop.
Yeah,
is that right?
it has been, man. It's just everybody's buying everything to get a hold of, and the big bore market is really, it's exploded. I think the COVID's helped a lot of it, but the big bore market and the hunting is getting better and better. More states are starting to open, so it's a real exciting time for air gunners and air gun hunters.
No, absolutely. And so in Arizona, you guys have been able to hunt with big bore, big game, a lot of different species of big game with air rifles for a long time. Is that right?
Yeah, 2013 they legalized it. 2012 was the first step. They legalized quail hunting and coyotes, varmints, stuff like that, bobcats, fox. They did that in 2012. That went over really well. So 2013, they gave us every big game animal we have, excluding turkey, elk, and buffalo. And last year now, they gave us the buffalo and the elk with 500 foot-pounds or more, 40 caliber larger air gun. I have a good ethical means of a good take. And turkey, I don't think we'll ever see, because in Arizona, you have to use a shotgun, shooting shot, or archery equipment. So, I don't think they're going to let us go ahead and start taking turkeys. But, we do have on the San Carlos Indian Reservation, I was instrumental in getting them to pass air gun hunting. And it's a great place.
On the San Carlos?
Yep, on the San Carlos Indian
Famous.
Reservation. Yeah.
Oh man, that's pretty cool. Did you know if anyone's killed anyone yet? Anything yet with on the reservation?
I have, yeah. The first year I got it passed, I took a cow elk, which was the first legally harvested wild free ranging elk harvested in the United States with an air gun.
Oh.
Then we took some turkeys that November, and we went back up in February. My son took javelina. And really cool thing about San Carlos Indian Reservation, there's not a draw system. So what they gave us was, they gave us cow elk, they gave us turkey, black bear, and javelina. So all the air gunners can go there and hunt. All you do is buy a tag and go. You don't have to worry about being put in for a draw or anything like that. And with an out-of-state hunter coming to Arizona, the tag fees, they're almost the same. So it's not costing you really any more than what it would cost on state land, but you don't have to go through the draw and hopefully get drawn. It takes several years to get a tag.
So it's not any more expensive, like even if someone wanted to go hunt bull elk there?
No. Well, they didn't allow bull elk with the air guns. They gave us cow elk. Right now they're setting at $850 for a cow elk tag. The javelina is $250.
Mm-hmm.
Turkeys are $250. And when you look at the price of an out-of-state license and then your tag on javelina, you're almost identical.
Gotcha.
The elk would be pretty close. The elk would be a little bit less, but it's a great venue and an opportunity for air gunners there.
No kidding. I thought you had I thought it was hard to get into that area to hunt. That's interesting. So tell me about this cow elk though you shot. Like, what's the story behind it? How far was it, and how far did you go?
Well, we hunted pretty hard. We had about a mile hike in to where I was going to hunt anyways. And it was the third day we were there, and I had about given up. The wind was giving me fits. I was sitting in a water tank down the bottom of a canyon. 3 separate feeder canyons come from the east side into it and float out the west side. And the wind, I got set up where I wanted to be on the south side of the tank. The wind was blowing in my face. All of a sudden it changed, and now it's blowing kind of to a northeast wind and blowing across to the northeast. And I sat for a while, and it was getting stronger and stronger. And that's usually where the elk were coming in. Gave up on that. So I went all the way around to the east side, moved my setup. And I finally just got frustrated. Long story short, I got frustrated. I'm walking out. It's over. I'm not going to hunt tonight. And I got over to the dike of it where the dam is on the pond, and the wind kind of flattened out, and it started blowing in my face again, blowing from the east to the west. And I thought, well, I've already walked all around this water hole. I moved my setup 3 different times. I moved. And I thought, well, I'm going to sit here a few minutes. And I heard hooves clicking in the rocks. And from the center feeder canyon from the east, there was a herd of elk coming down. And there was one small bull, and there was 2 cows and 2 calves. And then there was this big cow that I shot coming in the rear. And they came down to drink, and I waited. She was 104 yards, and I was shooting a 475 grain Eland slug from High Arc Hunter, and I hit her quarter and sharp at me in the shoulder, and she wheeled around, went about 10 yards, and just kind of stood looking around, and her right rear leg started to quiver, and I thought, there she goes, it's done. And she did a backflip, and that was the end of that. And the bullet did great. It got 26 inches of penetration. It took out 3 ribs going through the quarter and on shot, and it ended up under her rear leg on the opposite side.
Right. So when you're getting ready for a hunt like that with much larger game, I mean, going after whitetail type bodied animals is one thing, but when you're trying to go after something like an elk, even up into the bison and even dangerous game over in Africa, like how do you approach that with your setup? How do you develop that and get that dialed in?
Well, I spend a lot of time before really learning my equipment. That's the number one thing with these air guns. Everything we're shooting is below the speed of sound. Below the speed of sound, mass and momentum is your key factor. The heavier, slower bullets are going to do a better job to a certain point. You do have the point of diminishing return, but a lot of people will try to go to a lighter, faster bullet because it shoots flat, and they don't have to know their equipment is good. They can be a little bit off on yardage and they're okay. But in all the testing that we've done, you drastically lose penetration. So what I do is I do an awful lot of shooting when I go out, and I'll set my targets out to 100 yards. I'll go to 150, but I try to keep all my animal shots and hunting 100 yards or less. The gun that I'm using, the Bushbuck 45, very capable of further than that. I've taken deer out to 188. Everything was perfect in that situation. I don't advise that with air guns, but most of my game is 100 yards or less. And I'll practice every 25 yards. I have targets, and I'll know exactly what my drop is. I'll fire my second shot and I'll fire my third shot. I want to see what my drop's going to be at 100 yards. So if in the event I do have a bad hit, if that animal jumped on me or moved before the bullet struck, I know where I need to hold to put it in there. So I know everything about that gun before I get to my hunt. And then when I get to a hunt, like when we go to Africa, we go out to the range and we shoot. And we might shoot for 2 or 3 hours. Right. I make sure that everything is back in line, sighted in, everything's fine from that long trip. And it's all the preparation is everything in a hunt like that. And I like slinging the bigger bullets, because if you have an elk, you have a deer, even a whitetail deer, you're hunting them in a rutting situation. If that deer should happen to turn on you real quick, you got a broadside shot, and all of a sudden he turns on you and you hit him quartering on in that shoulder bone. You've got all that shoulder bone and ribs to get through. Them light bullets don't do it. So them big, heavy, slow bullets, they're freight train, man. They just break bone. They get through the vitals. They do what they need to do.
It reminds me a lot of using sluggers growing up. Slow, obviously shotguns, got some speed to it, but really relying on that mass. And the gun I grew up on was a smooth bore gun. So it was all about putting the mass into it. That buck right there was, he fell to that gun. But that's what it kind of reminds me of a little bit. So take me through, like, when somebody comes to the shop. First off, so you work for Air Guns of Arizona, is that right?
I do, yeah.
How long you been there for?
About 14 years.
How'd you get started there?
It's kind of funny, really. I had a landscape company for 21 years.
Okay.
And I'd go and hang around there when they moved it. I bought my first air gun from them when they were way up in Mesa. I found out about them, and I'd been shooting all the Chinese break barrel guns because that's all we could get. And in the Bass Pro Shops catalog, they had the RWS guns. I thought, boy, I'd love to own one of them someday. And they had the Korean 9mm. I thought, wow, that'd be a great gun to have. And then I found out about this store several years later, and it just progressed from there. And one day I was in there, and the owner, Robert Buchanan, he said, you ought to come work for me. I said, I don't know if I can do that. I've been in my own business for 21 years. I don't have a leash around my neck. I can do what I want. He said, we'll work around that. And I said, well, I hunt a lot. And I said, I take a lot of time to go hunting. He said, I'll work around it. He said, I want you to work for me. And I said, I'll think about it. At that time, I was pretty ill, and it was close to the end of my life. It was really cutting it close. And doctors found out what was wrong with me, fixed me up, got me on better. But the landscape business, they said I need to be out of the dust and the dirt and all the pollens from the grasses and things. So that kind of made my decision that I better think about something different. My wife and I talked, and she said, honey, you need to get out. You got to get out of the dirt. You got to get out of the sun, and the dust. And so that's how that all started. It started part-time and it worked into full-time, and it's been fantastic.
Mhm. So when a guy comes into the shop that is new to it, it's obviously a much different conversation than someone who's who's experienced. How do you take somebody through that introductory phase and get them set up for hunting?
Well, in the showroom, when somebody comes in, if they're looking for a big boar to hunt big game, and even it works on the small game too, we find out what they want the gun to do for them. What do you want that gun to achieve for you? What are you going to use it for? On the small game side, a lot of people around here, they want to get rid of pigeons on the roof. Pigeons are a big hassle around here. And YouTube's great, but YouTube's also, it causes us a lot of training because everybody comes in wanting a 25 or 30 caliber to shoot a pigeon off their roof. They might have had a 760 Crosman. They say the BBs are bouncing off of the wings, and we have to educate them and tell them, well, you got to be really careful on your target and beyond because of the collateral damage of 25s and 30s and stuff like that. And then in the big bore stuff, it's almost the opposite. People on the small calibers want to use way too much. You put air in front of the word gun, they think, oh, it's just a toy. And then the people on the big calibers don't want to use enough. They want a gun just so they can get into, 120, 150 foot-pound gun, 357. Well, we can hunt with a 357 in Arizona, so why can't I use that gun? So now we have to start into the teaching of, the penetration, the mass, the momentum, the distances, and stuff like that. And we try to walk them through, and we do the best job we can to fit them in the gun they need. And there is many, many times customer will come in the showroom with X amount of dollars in their pocket, and we tell them, hey, go home. If it takes you a month, if it takes you 6 months, save the money. Let's get you into a gun that you really need, that's really going to do the job for you and do it correctly. You'll be happier in the long run.
Right. It's funny, looking at having grown up with center fires and in that realm, how much you kind of just I don't want to say take for granted, but you do take for granted the power that a center fire will produce, and you don't think as much about the ballistics of it. Yeah. And whereas you actually really do need to learn those fundamentals and those basics and become extremely comfortable with them. So if you have to single out one element though, because everyone that I talk to has their own, something about, the big bore air gunning for hunting. Like, what is the single most important element to you though, that you look for in your gun? Is it like foot-pounds of energy? Is it speed? Is it caliber size?
Yeah, it's going to be the foot-pounds of energy, definitely. And, velocity is kind of a smoke and mirrors.
Okay.
Somebody can say, well, I'm running 1,000 feet per second with my gun. Yeah, but what bullet are you using? And the tests that I do when I go to game and fish departments and do seminars for them, we shoot ballistic gel, the 10% FBI gel at 50 yards. And everybody likes that speed, but you take that 230 grain bullet at 930 feet per second, it gets about 9 to 12 inches of penetration at 50 yards. That's in the ballistic gel. You take that 475 grain bullet at 740, 750 feet per second. Now I got 36 to 38 inches of penetration in the gel. I want to make sure that I can punch through the bone, get to the vitals. If there is a bad shot for whatever reason, hunting is never perfect. And if you hunt long enough, you're going to wound animals. You're going to lose them no matter what gun you're using. It doesn't matter. But you always try to edge that out. So the foot-pounds of energy, definitely. And all the testing we've done, the ballistics that we've done, 300 foot-pounds is where I set my minimum limit on deer and things. And, there's a lot of people out there that will definitely, there's a lot of animals killed with 150, 200 foot-pound guns. Yes, it happens. It's going to happen a lot. But there's also a lot more animals lost. And, we could hunt pretty much anything in North America with a 22 rimfire. with the right shot in the perfect situation, you're gonna harvest that animal. But people don't do that. So kind of taking away a lot of the controllables, whatever I can control to make sure that if I do something wrong or the animal moves, I'm still going to have an ethical, clean shot. And that all comes strictly down to the foot-pounds of energy. Bullet construction comes in there too, but that's later on.
No, understood. So what was you told me over the phone a couple of days ago that you have a lot of animals with an air gun under your belt in the big game department. It's fairly impressive. What was your first animal, though, your first big game animal, and what was that learning curve like when you decided this was going to be your implement you were going to take to the field?
Actually, my first animal I shot was a warthog in Africa. That was the first one I put down.
Those are tough animals. Those are tough animals, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that was the first one, if I'm remembering correctly. I'm sitting here trying to remember back if there was any before that. That was the first one. First Africa trip was it, and that was the warthog was the first.
Gotcha. And how about stateside here?
Stateside, the first one was javelina hunt, and that was a great hunt. I mean, a lot of my hunts, if anybody wants to watch them, if you go to YouTube to Air Gun Only Adventures, we have a lot of the hunts up on there. And that javelina hunt's a great one. People love it. They come in the store talking about it because you can watch the bullet. I was using a 460 grain bullet, way overboard for the javelina.
Yeah.
But I had just been to Africa and I knew the ballistics of it, perfect to 100 yards, and I used it. And you can watch it in flight, hit that pig through the shoulders, and it's a pretty good video.
Right. We'll put a link to it for sure. So outside of the elk, though, was the elk the biggest bodied animal you've taken?
No. I in Africa I did take an eland. The eland was 80 yards. That's also on YouTube. A high shoulder shot, dropped it where it stood, crushed it. Performance was perfect. The pH on the concession that we were hunting, I told them I wanted to get an eland. And they said, "Are you sure that gun can do it?" And I said, "Oh, yeah, no problem. Don't you worry about my gun." I said, I know what I'm doing. You just get me the shot, and I'm going to take care of the rest." Even the day that we were going to hunt eland, they still were questioning me and asking me, "Are you sure your gun's going to do it?" And I said, "Absolutely. Don't worry about the gun." They were just totally impressed. And the owner of the concession was guiding me. And all the animals I'd taken over there, the eland, the kudu, and bush pigs, everything I'd taken, he loves that gun. When I shot the kudu, he was 104 yards also. And I was using a 365 grain bullet on him. I had to shoot through some brush. He bellowed and fell right there and rolled down the hill. And the owner of the concession, he looks over at me and he says, "I love that gun."
So you've seen a lot of aha moments in people when they go from being skeptical to being a believer.
Yes, definitely.
That's got to be
my number one reason for shooting that eland. I wanted the eland, but the biggest thing for that is I had been pushing Arizona Game and Fish to get the elk legalized with 500 foot-pounds or more. And so that was my number one push for that, to video that, to take it to them and say, "Look, we can ethically harvest elk and buffalo with an air gun."
So has anyone recorded a bison kill in Arizona now?
Not yet. I actually have a hunter that's a local customer that actually called me just last week. He told me he got drawn. He wants to use an air gun, and so he bought a 45 caliber bush buck from us. And I told him, I said, "I'll see what I'm doing during your hunt. If I can, I'm going to come video that for you."
Oh, nice. Yeah. So how many animals total have you big game species have you taken with the air rifle?
I'd have to sit down. Yeah, I think I'm around 48 right now. I'm not positive. It's somewhere right around 48 animals.
So did you get into this mostly because it was a progression? Obviously you've hunted your whole life. So where did the wheels start to turn for you back? Sounds like 20 years ago. um, 15 years ago that you started to think, okay, this probably could be something to get into? And it just seems like, because everyone I talk to seems like it starts as I might give it a shot, and then turns into that's all people start using are these guns. How did that snowball for you?
Well, I always hunted, of course, the small game, the pigeons at the dairies and stuff a lot. And I had some, lesser powered 50 caliber air guns that were fun to go shoot. And I actually ended up selling them because I always dreamed I thought it'd be really neat if I could hunt big game with these. I really want to do that. And I, before I started hunting with the air gun, most of my hunting was done with archery equipment. I hunted enough stuff with firearms, and I wanted something more of a challenge. I enjoy being closer to the animal. I don't like, I don't take long shots. You guys are shooting 500, 800 yards on big game, and that's cool. But for me, it doesn't really do anything for me. I really like to be in tight with them, and the archery equipment did that for me. And in 2013, when Arizona finally legalized it, it was like I was born again. I was done hunting. I had hunted so much. I guided, and it was just getting to be old hat to me. And when they legalized big bore hunting, that freshened the pot, and I took off again, just like a kid.
That's interesting. Yeah, it's exciting to hear these stories of folks that it becomes that enthralling for people, and it seems like it just sucks you in with all the little details of it.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
so tell me, so you said also over the phone that you do a lot of work on the advocacy side at the state level, which is great. I mean, a lot of folks, it's been a lot of grassroots efforts, it seems like, over the last um, really the last 20 years, as the technology has started to catch up. And obviously the last couple of years, it's exploded. Um,
Yeah.
a couple years ago, I remember there was like 7 states that were legal, and now there's something like upwards of 18, 19, 20, 21, I think, the last time I checked, that you can hunt, big game animals in. So how did the advocacy side for you get started, and what do you do? You said you go and do demos all across the country?
I've done several, yeah, and it's kind of started Arizona. We did demo with Arizona, and we had, I don't know, 70 some officers and some directors there on that one. And then some people got my name, and the Idaho Fish and Game called me up and said, "Hey, would you like to come and present the air guns to us?" I said, "Yeah, by all means." And I can't do a lot of them because I do it all on my own. Nobody sponsors me. So when I save up enough money and I start talking to a fish and game department and ask them if I can come do it, and a lot of doors have been shut in my face in the previous years because there wasn't many states doing it, and they look at it as some kind of voodoo. They're afraid of it. They don't want to legalize any new methods and stuff like that. But some states are very open to it. So, Idaho was my first big win. Um, and the elk in Arizona and stuff, there was a good push on that. And some of the places that I've done, I actually wanted to go hunt. Had some friends ask me to come hunt, but air guns aren't legal. Hawaii is one of them. You can hunt on private property in Hawaii with an air gun, but you cannot hunt on state land with an air gun legally. You can't even shoot Tweety birds. They have massive issues over there and problems with predation, as far as like the mongoose and the pigs and the deer and stuff like that are moving into the bird habitat. And Hawaii has a huge wild bird population, and some of these animals are taking that away, the deer and the pigs and things like that. So Hawaii, I worked with them for 2 years and so far, and they shut it down, but they finally did put it in the regulations that it's legal to do on private property where it never was written. So we got that done. I did a full 1-day seminar. They brought biologists from every island over, and we did a full day seminar with the different guns and what can be done with them. And it was a great deal. They were very receptive, but in the end, they're still kind of sitting on the fence on it. They shot it down, and they didn't throw it away. It's still sitting on the shelf, so we're still working on it.
Well, the interesting thing about Hawaii is I did a lot of research. I was trying to go over last winter, but then COVID shut everything down. It seems like a lot of the good axis deer hunting is on private ground anyway. So I think
Yeah.
there's probably a window there. Sounds like that could be a great experience. I think I explained that one of the things we're going to try to do here on the platform is build cool experiences for membership, and that might have to be one to look into
Oh
to get
yeah.
it
Yeah.
together.
Lanai is the most popular place
Mhm.
for all of the hunting as far as the mouflon and the axis. But we're still working on it. We're going to try to get it through. And one of their big concerns was power. They were really, really worried and concerned about power. About, are those guns good enough? Do they have the power to take an axis deer?
Well, if you show them that video, and I've seen the video of your eland, when I was doing research for this whole project, actually that was one of the first videos that I came across was you shooting that eland. So I think that should probably quell all concerns there.
Yeah, we have a
Um,
video that we put together for the fishing game, but just a little thumb drive that, it shows a bunch of just kills basically. And, even though they watch that, they still have their concerns about it. And even though they watch the gel presentation and ballistic gel. So it's a hard road for us air gunners, but with what you're doing, this is going to help tremendously to push this forward.
Yeah. So what do you think of the platform as a whole? I mean, I know that sometimes people just don't even score their animals. Obviously, that's one element of the website. But so what do you think about the platform as a whole moving forward for the community? And from your position, like what can we do to help really expand the base of users?
The exposure and the exposure that you're going to give it on your platform and the ideas that you have going forward with the scoring, trophy animal scoring, that's a great thing. That shows how big the animal is. But more people, I think, are hunting, especially with an air gun. They're not hunting to hold up a giant set of horns and say, look what I killed, while they have a carcass laying behind them that's got 60 or 80 pounds of boned out delicious meat for their table. I think more of them are going for that meat, and the horns are great. And so many forums you get on as far as, big game hunting, just rifles, archery, stuff like that. It's terrible that people will cut somebody down because they shot a little spike or they shot a 3-point or something like that. In the beginning, we as humans, we hunted to eat. It didn't matter the size of the animal. Back then, there wasn't the population of animals because so many people were hunting just to eat. You took what you could get, and that was to put meat on the table for your family. And, there's nothing better than 100% organic meat. My family, my boys are raised on elk, deer, bear, javelina. That's most of their diet that they were raised on. And for people to go in and cut somebody down because they shot a smaller animal, or maybe it was a really nice 10-point buck, but he was only a 2.5, 3-year-old deer that had a lot of potential to be a monster trophy. So what? Is that person happy that harvested it? Yeah. Are they using all the meat? Yeah. That's where the concern should be. And that's what your goal is, from what I understand, when you and I talked a little bit, and to praise somebody for the trophy they got, that might be their first big game animal. They might be 40 or 50 years old. When I was guiding, we take people out that 60, 65 years old. I took a 63-year-old lady, the first elk she ever took. Her husband bawled like a baby when he got down in the canyon where that elk was. That right there is worth more than any 400-inch bull elk, 200-inch whitetail, 200-inch mule deer. Watching him and her meant more than anything to me. And it was a good bull. He wasn't a monster. He's a big 5x6, but watching him break down, that's what hunting's about. That's the truth about hunting. It's the experience and the harvest.
No, that's beautiful. You said it absolutely perfect. And we have enough people that we're fighting against. We have enough people in the world that we're trying to keep our culture alive. And one of the things that, we talked about this the other day with the guys that were working on with this project. I think one of the cool things that we're going to be rolling out is, in addition to, yes, you can get your animal scored, is doing cool little, micro clubs that celebrate the harvest, like one being, the hog club. Well, how heavy was your pig? The squirrel slam, how many squirrels did you get? How many different species of squirrels did you get? And then the other one we started talking about the other day, by the time this airs, I'm sure we'll be a little further down the line on it, but doing the meat hunters patch. Well, how many pounds of meat did you get off of that? Was it 80 pounds? Was it 90? Was it 67? Let's celebrate that. And you're absolutely right. Like, if we can create an inclusive environment that celebrates that 12-year-old kid that shoots his first spike and rally around it, like I feel like the people that get really antsy about the size and the age of an animal, I feel like that's a minor portion. Granted, there's, from a sustainable harvest and a management perspective, I understand that, and it certainly is special, but I don't think there's very many people that would really do shame, at least I hope not, that shame kids and people that are experiencing that. And we want to create that environment, on this platform and really try to help change the narrative amongst our culture. So
Yep.
It's exciting because, it's exciting too, because this micro, let's call it the subculture of air gunners, seem really close knit. And I feel like I'm really hopeful and excited for what's possible going into the future.
Oh yeah, it's I've seen what's been happening growing just here in Arizona since 2013. So I think with what you're putting together, it's going to catapult it. And you mentioned a couple of things there. Brought another thing to mind for me is different methods of fighting each other. Rifle hunters fighting archery hunters fighting crossbow. People go with a crossbow, they're handicapped. So what? Let them hunt with a crossbow. It's okay. If you're handicapped, hey, that's great. You let them hunt with a crossbow. And fighting amongst the groups like that is not going to help our hunting, but openly welcoming everything will. And with a complete open platform that you're producing, I don't see how it can't be a win-win situation.
Well, we appreciate that. We're working really hard. We're going to be launching, hopefully here in the next couple of days, the rolling out the platform. The web team has been working overtime to try and get it. Web projects are always fun, but it's a pretty in-depth website. One question I did have is kind of a side note. You mentioned javelina, that your boys were raised on javelina. I've heard a million different ways or different theories, like what to do with javelina. How do you cook javelina?
We do all kinds of things with it. We pit barbecue it. When you kill a javelina, if it's real musky smelling, you're going to know if it's going to be a strong one or not. Everybody calls them stink pigs and things like that. They have a gland on their back. That smells different. But when you skin them out, you'll know right away. We've taken the back straps. They're little. They're silver dollar size, a little bigger maybe on some of them, and chop them up, throw them in a bag with some seasoning and flour, and fry them in a skillet. They're delicious. We have them pit barbecued. I haven't done it myself, but we used to have a guy that would pit barbecue them.
Yeah.
Everybody went crazy over it. They loved it. And, you've got on a good sized pig, you've got anywhere from a 25 to maybe, a really good one's going to be a 30-pound carcass, legs cut off, hide, head, and stuff like that. So you're not going to get much meat off of them. 8 pounds of solid meat, 12 pounds. And we also take them down and have snack sticks made out of them, or sausage. Okay. It's delicious. Everybody that eats it goes crazy. Nobody even knows. And then a lot of times we'll have a big stainless steel dehydrator, and we'll make jerky out of a lot of it. And the javelina jerky, it has a little bit of a tang to it from the javelina, but with the other seasoning, nobody knows what it is, and everybody wants to buy it. They say it's the greatest they've ever had.
Huh. I took one javelina in my life in Texas, and we ate a little bit of it at the ranch there. And I remember it being, I remember like I was never it was never on my list of things to go and get. But now I have this like in the back of my mind things I want to go do and get back and try to hunt one. and really explore everything you can do from a meal perspective
Yeah.
with little animals. They seem all the videos I've seen. It seems like they live in really cool country, especially in Arizona,
Oh,
and
yeah.
it just looked like an absolute riot to hunt. So that might have
Oh,
to be another experience we put together.
so we can do that. They're fun because you get into them. Their eyesight's not real good, but their nose and their hearing is unbelievable.
Right.
You know, they might be 400 yards across the canyon, and you slip just a little bit with your foot, they hear it. They'll all freeze. The whole herd will freeze. They want to know what's going on. They're really fun animal to hunt. And the eating part. Back to that. One other thing I would like to say is the bear. For
Oh
many
yeah.
years, people would shoot a bear for the hide. They want the mount. And a
Right.
lot of times we'd be up bear hunting and we'd see a carcass in the bottom of a canyon. Somebody skinned it and left the whole carcass. And it's a law in Arizona that you're not allowed to waste any game meat. But they kind of, for a long time, they turned their head on the bear.
Mhm.
And a bunch of us guys we'd complain every year, hey, we saw this bear down the bottom, somebody left it, la la la. Now they've gotten a lot stricter on it. And bear meat is unbelievable. Bear meat is
Unbelievable.
delicious.
Yes.
The main thing on bear, get it skinned immediately, get the fat taken off of it, pull the muscle groups apart. You can stick your fingers and your hands in there and pop the muscle groups. I'm sure you already know on elk and deer and stuff. And there'll be some fat in there, and just scrape it out and then cool the meat.
Okay.
And it's unbelievable.
No, I absolutely agree. My younger brother took a bear last year in the Northeast with his bow, and I was shocked at how good it is. Actually, this morning's breakfast was a maple bear sausage power sandwich. But the steaks taste great. The burger, and actually the burgers themselves, some of the best burger I've ever had, just because they do have that little more of a greasy meat. And but it's interesting how the more that we progress, and there's different shows out there that bring a light to what's possible with
Yeah,
game meats. And so I think losing some of that stigma around bear, javelina, what have you, um,
definitely.
even antelope, for crying
Oh,
out
I
loud.
love delicious.
I've heard some people, like a good friend of mine that I hunt with, was like he had given away an antelope, one of his boys shot. They kept one, the other one that the other son shot, and he's like, I regretted that instantly.
Yeah,
And so it's amazing how we're changing. Stigmas are changing, but it also does come down to how creative can you get, in the kitchen. So
yeah, yeah. A lot of times, somebody tries something, they say, yeah, the seasoning's good. you
yeah,
know, so
yeah.
it definitely goes down to that. But a lot of it's in game prep from the time the animal's down to what you do with it after that. You know,
Well, and I think
parading around with it on the bed of the truck, showing everybody for
yeah,
4 or 6 hours, not a good thing. Get the hide off, get the meat cooled, and you've got great table fare with just about anything we get to hunt in North America.
yeah. No, absolutely. It's funny because maybe it's at some level, at least in my family, there might have been a little bit of a generational thing because my grandmother, when COVID first hit, I got stuck at my grandma's house, which was not a bad place to get stuck. She's a great Italian cook, I'll tell you that much. But I had all this venison that with me as I traveled, and she thought it was like, oh, it's just cheap grade beef meat, and I was like, not the way that I'm cooking it, Grandma. Come on.
Yep.
So, but well, listen, we've been on for going on almost an hour now. It's been absolutely great to chat with you. Finally, I'm sure it won't be the last time that we bring you on. So, tell everyone where they can find you and the shop, and so just we'll put the links in the description here below.
Yeah, if anybody wants to talk to me, they can get a hold of me at Air Guns of Arizona in Gilbert, Arizona. You can look up the website, airgunsofarizona.com. And then, of course, my video channel, YouTube, would be Airgun Only Adventures. And you can get a hold of me at the shop, call up. We're always super busy, but one of the other guys might answer the phone. Just tell me you need to talk to me, and whatever you need, I'm more than willing to talk you through whatever I can do to help you out. And I thank you for what you're doing and getting this ball rolling. I know you've been burning the candle at both ends, and I really appreciate what you're doing for the airgun community, because this is going to be amazing.
Well, I've got a really good team of people I'm working with, and I got to give a lot of credit back to them first, who are putting the guts of this together. I'm just really good at talking to folks. That's all. That's what I'm probably the best at. But a lot of credit back to the guys that are building the website and that even brought this project to my attention in the first place. But yeah, would love to get Air Guns of Arizona involved with this for sure as we move forward. So. But if you want to become a member, just go to airgunhuntinglegion.com. It's a $25 membership per year. You get all sorts of benefits from our corporate partners. We're going to be doing experiences, films. So get involved. Let's help push this part of the culture into the next phase. Again, airgunhuntinglegion.com, and check us out on Instagram and Facebook. We'll see you guys next time. This is the video cast. Take care.